My name is Sienna Hudson. I'm 32 years old, and last Christmas, my brother-in-law confessed something that shattered everything my family believed. For 8 years, my parents worshipped him, the Harvard Law graduate, the partner-track attorney at a prestigious firm, the man who gave my sister the perfect life. And for 8 years, they told me I had settled because my husband builds furniture with his hands instead of arguing cases in court. What Derek whispered to me in my parents' backyard, wine breath hot against my ear, changed everything. And what happened at that dinner table 3 hours later? My mother is still not speaking to me, but I'd do it all again. Before I tell you exactly what he said and why my sister is finally free, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely connect with this story. Drop where you're watching from and your local time. I want to know who's spending their evening with me. Let me take you back to where it all started. The Thanksgiving when I first brought Marcus home. 5 years ago, Thanksgiving. I remember the weight of Marcus's hand in mine as we walked up my parents' driveway. He carried a rocking chair, hand-carved walnut, 3 months of work in every curve and joint. My mother opened the door. Her smile flickered when she saw him. "You must be Marcus." She looked at the chair. "Oh, that's rustic. Derek got Linda a Cartier bracelet last month." I felt Marcus's fingers tighten around mine, just briefly. Then he relaxed. "It's nice to meet you, Mrs. Hudson." My father appeared behind her. He shook Marcus's hand the way you'd shake hands with a salesman you didn't trust. "So, carpentry," Dad said. "Is that sustainable? Do you have a 401k?" Before Marcus could answer, a black Tesla pulled into the driveway. My sister Vivian stepped out, blonde hair perfect, designer coat draped over her shoulders. Derek followed, tall, polished, every inch the successful attorney. My mother transformed. "There they are!" She rushed past us to embrace Vivian. "Derek, you look wonderful. How's the firm?" "Partner track," Derek said, flashing white teeth. "Should know by spring." Dad clapped him on the back. "That's my boy." I watched Marcus set the rocking chair in the corner of the living room. No one mentioned it again that night. But here's the thing. 5 years later, that chair sits in my mother's reading nook. She uses it every single day. She's never once admitted it's the most beautiful piece of furniture in her house. That Thanksgiving was the first time I saw the pattern. I just didn't know how deep it went, or how much it would cost us all to finally break it. 2 weeks before last Christmas, I was in our kitchen, phone pressed to my ear, watching Marcus sand a tabletop in his workshop through the window. "Did you hear?" My mother's voice crackled with excitement. "Vivian and Derek just bought a house in Brookline. 4 bedrooms, a pool." "That's nice, Mom." "It's more than nice. It's what success looks like." She paused, the pause that always preceded the knife. "I just wish you had aimed higher, honey. Marcus is nice. But you settled. You know you did." I didn't answer. What could I say that I hadn't said 100 times before? "A carpenter, Sienna. My daughter married a carpenter." Through the window, Marcus looked up. He'd heard. The phone was too loud, or maybe my mother's disappointment just carried that well. He didn't react, just returned to his work, the sandpaper moving in slow, deliberate strokes. After I hung up, he came inside, sawdust in his hair, calluses on his palms, the hands my mother thought weren't good enough. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded. We both knew it was a lie. That night, lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling. Marcus breathed steadily beside me, already asleep or pretending to be. What my mother didn't know, what none of them knew, was that Marcus had just been commissioned for a project that would make Derek's salary look like pocket change. But that's not even the part that matters. What matters is this. I was starting to wonder if my silence was protecting my family or just slowly killing my marriage. Something had to change. I just didn't know it would happen so soon, or hurt so much when it did. That same night, I couldn't sleep. I lay there cataloging the evidence. 5 years of holiday dinners where Marcus excused himself earlier each time. 5 years of him never suggesting we visit my parents. 5 years of silence in the car ride home, his jaw tight, his eyes on the road. I'd told myself it was fine, that he understood, that our love was strong enough to absorb my family's disappointment. But love doesn't work that way. Contempt is corrosive. It seeps through cracks you didn't know existed. 6 months before that sleepless night, Marcus had asked me something. We were folding laundry, mundane, ordinary, when he said it. "Do you ever defend us to them?" I'd frozen, a pillowcase in my hands. "I mean, I hear what they say." His voice was quiet, not angry, worse, sad. "And I never hear you push back." I'd mumbled something about keeping the peace, about not making things worse. He'd nodded slowly. "Okay. Just okay." That one word carried more weight than any argument could have. I found out later that he'd written a letter to my parents. 3 pages, handwritten, explaining his work, his values, his love for me. He'd spent 2 weeks on it. He never sent it. When I asked him why, he shrugged. "What's the point? They've already decided who I am." Lying in bed that December night, I understood something I'd been avoiding for years. My silence wasn't neutral. Every time I let a comment slide, I was teaching myself that I wasn't worth protecting, that we weren't worth protecting. Marcus deserved better. Hell, I deserved better. Christmas was 2 weeks away. My parents expected us at their house, same as always. This year would be different. I just didn't know how different. The next day at work, I sat across from a patient named Julie, 28 years old, trapped in a relationship with a man who criticized everything she did. "He says I'm too sensitive," Julie said, twisting a tissue in her hands. "That I can't take a joke." I leaned forward. "When you stay silent about mistreatment, you teach yourself that you're not worth protecting." The words left my mouth, and something clicked, like hearing your own voice on a recording and not recognizing it. I was giving advice I couldn't follow. After the session, Dr. Eleanor Webb called me into her office. She was 58, silver-haired, and had been my mentor since my residency. "Sienna, I have good news," she smiled. "Your research on coercive control patterns, it's been selected. You're presenting at the March conference." What? "Don't look so surprised. You're one of our best. The board agrees." I walked back to my office in a daze. At work, I was Dr. Hudson, respected, competent, and expert in recognizing toxic relationship dynamics. At my parents' house, I became someone smaller, someone who let her husband be insulted and said nothing. The disconnect was staggering. Dr. Webb had mentioned something else, almost in passing. A high-profile client seeking private consultation, someone going through a difficult situation. She'd given me the file to review. I didn't think much of it then. I would later. That evening, I made a decision. This Christmas, I wouldn't stay silent. I wouldn't swallow the comments and pretend they didn't sting. I had no idea that my small act of courage would collide with something much bigger. Secrets that had been festering in my sister's perfect house for years. But I'm getting ahead of myself. December 24th, 4:47 p.m. Marcus and I pulled into my parents' driveway. Christmas lights wound around the porch railings. A wreath hung on the red front door, picture perfect, as always. "You ready?" Marcus asked. "No, you?" "Never am." He grabbed the gift bag from the back seat, a jewelry box he'd carved from reclaimed oak, mother of pearl inlay. 20 hours of work. I took his hand. "Whatever happens tonight, I'm on your side." He looked at me. Something shifted in his eyes. Surprise, maybe. Hope. Okay, he said softly. Inside, the house smelled like pine and roasting turkey. My father sat in his armchair. My mother fussed with place settings. And there, arranged on the sofa like a magazine spread, were Vivian and Derek. My sister wore cream cashmere, diamond studs. Her smile was perfect, and somehow wrong, like a painting hung slightly off-center. Derek rose to greet us, tall, confident, every hair in place. Little sister. He pulled me into a hug I didn't want. Still saving the crazies? My mother laughed. Derek, don't be mean. But she was smiling. Marcus extended his hand. Derek shook it briefly, the way you'd handle something unclean. Marcus, good to see you, buddy. Buddy. Like they were friends, like there wasn't 5 years of contempt in that handshake. I turned to Vivian. We hugged. Her arms wrapped around me, quick, mechanical. When I pulled back, her eyes darted away. She was thinner, much thinner than Thanksgiving. And there on her wrist, partially hidden by a gold bracelet, was that a bruise? Before I could look closer, she turned away. I'll help Mom in the kitchen, she said. Something cold settled in my stomach, something I couldn't name yet. Dinner started at 6. The turkey was perfect. The conversation was a minefield. Derek won a huge case last month, my mother announced, passing the gravy. It was in the Boston Globe. Did you see it, Sienna? I didn't. You should have. Very impressive. She beamed at Derek. Tell them about it. Derek launched into a story about corporate litigation. Words like precedent and settlement floated across the table. My father nodded along, rapt. When Derek finished, Dad turned to Marcus. So, Marcus, business good? People still buying wood things? Marcus set down his fork. Custom furniture. Yes, business is great. Custom furniture. Derek swirled his wine. Must be nice. No deadlines, no pressure. Just sanding. There's pressure, Marcus said evenly. Different kind. Sure. Derek's smile didn't reach his eyes. I watched Vivian across the table. She'd cut her food into tiny pieces but hadn't eaten a bite. Her fork pushed the same sliver of turkey around her plate. Vivian, honey, you're so thin. My mother frowned. Derek, you need to feed your wife better. She's on a diet, Derek said. Wants to look good for New Year's. Something flickered across Vivian's face, there and gone, fast as a blink. Fear. I knew fear. I saw it every day in my patients. That micro-expression, the widened eyes, the tightened jaw, was unmistakable. My sister was afraid of her husband. The realization hit me like ice water. I gripped my fork, mind racing. Right, Viv? Derek was watching her now. Vivian nodded quickly. Right, the diet. She didn't look up from her plate. I saw it. That flash of fear. And suddenly, 8 years of observation started clicking into place, like pieces of a puzzle I hadn't known I was solving. After dinner, we moved to the living room. The Christmas tree glowed in the corner. Stockings hung over the fireplace. Norman Rockwell couldn't have painted it better. My mother opened Marcus's gift first. She lifted the jewelry box from the tissue paper, turned it over in her hands. Oh, she said. It's homemade. Cute. Cute. 20 hours of hand-carved oak, and she called it cute. The old Sienna would have smiled and changed the subject. The old Sienna would have let it slide. It took him 40 hours, Mom. My voice came out steady, clear. That's $3,000 worth of labor if he charged market rate. The room went silent. My father shifted in his armchair. Sienna, don't be dramatic. Wow, Derek chuckled. Someone's sensitive tonight. I looked at him, held his gaze. I'm not sensitive. I'm accurate. Marcus's hand found the small of my back. Not pulling me away, not stopping me, Just there, present. My mother's mouth opened and closed. She wasn't used to this version of me. Vivian suddenly stood up. Her face was pale. "I need some air," she said, and walked toward the back door. As she passed the coffee table, her phone slipped from her cardigan pocket. It clattered onto the floor. Derek moved fast. Too fast. He scooped up the phone and slipped it into his own pocket in one smooth motion. Like a reflex, like he'd done it 1,000 times. Vivian didn't protest. She didn't even look back. She just walked outside into the cold December night, shoulders hunched like she was carrying something heavy. I watched Derek pat his pocket where her phone now rested. And I thought, what kind of husband confiscates his wife's phone? The kind I was beginning to recognize. Okay, I need to pause here for a second. If you've ever sat at a family dinner feeling invisible while someone else got all the praise, I see you. I really do. Comment below and tell me. Have you ever had a moment where you finally spoke up? What happened? And hey, if you're still with me, that subscribe button is right there. Hit it. I promise this story is about to get wild. Now, where was I? Right. My sister had just walked out into the cold, and I was starting to see things I'd missed for years. I found Vivian in the backyard, standing near the old oak tree. Christmas lights from the neighbor's house cast colored shadows across the snow. Her shoulders were shaking. "Viv?" She spun around, wiping her face quickly. "I'm fine. Just cold." I stepped closer. The bruise on her wrist was more visible now. Purple-green, days old. Before I could say anything, my phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from an unknown number. "I can't do this anymore. I need to tell someone. Can we talk?" D. I stared at the screen. D? I didn't know anyone who'd text me like this. Probably spam. I was about to delete it when Vivian touched my arm. "We should go back inside." Her voice was flat, rehearsed. "Derek will wonder where I am." Will wonder. Not might. Will. Like she knew exactly how he'd react. Like she'd learned to predict his moods the way you predict weather. "Vivian, are you okay? Really?" She looked at me then. For one moment her mask slipped. I saw exhaustion, fear, a desperate silent plea. Then it was gone. "I'm fine," she said again. "Come on." We walked back toward the house. Through the window I could see Derek watching us. His expression was odd, calculating almost. When he caught me looking, he smiled. But his eyes didn't change. That text sat in my phone like a splinter. Unknown number. Someone wanting to confess something. The initial D. It wasn't until later that I realized Derek's number wasn't in my contacts. We'd never exchanged phones, and that message, "I need to tell someone," hadn't been meant for me at all. He'd sent it to the wrong number. I just didn't know whose number he'd meant to reach. Inside, new guests had arrived. Rachel Nguyen stood in the foyer, unwinding a scarf from her neck. She'd been Vivian's best friend since college. Though now that I thought about it, I hadn't seen them together in years. Rachel hugged Vivian for a long time, too long. When they separated, she whispered something in my sister's ear. Vivian nodded once, quickly, then pulled away. I watched Rachel watching Vivian walk back to Derek's side. Something like pain flickered across Rachel's face. She noticed me looking. Our eyes met. "Sienna, can I talk to you for a second?" We stepped into the hallway, away from the others. Rachel glanced toward the living room, then back at me. "How is she?" Her voice was low, urgent. "Really?" "I don't know. She won't talk to me." Rachel's jaw tightened. She seemed to be wrestling with something. "She called me," she finally said. 6 months ago, middle of the night. She was..." Rachel stopped, swallowed. "She wanted to leave." But then she called back the next morning and said it was nothing. Leave what? Rachel didn't answer. Her eyes drifted toward Derek, who was laughing at something my father said. I work at the courthouse, she said quietly. I shouldn't be telling you this. Telling me what? She hesitated. Then, a report was filed, then withdrawn, the next day. The blood drained from my face. What kind of report? Rachel shook her head. I can't say more. I could lose my job. She gripped my arm. But if you see something tonight, anything, please don't ignore it. She won't save herself. Then she walked away, leaving me alone in the hallway with a terrible suspicion crystallizing into certainty. My sister had tried to get help, and no one knew, not even me. By 10 o'clock, the wine bottles were mostly empty. Derek had switched to whiskey. His cheeks were flushed, his voice louder. The polished mask was slipping. You know what Marcus should do? Derek leaned back on the sofa, glass dangling from his fingers. Start a YouTube channel. How to make stuff nobody needs. My father laughed. Actually laughed. My mother smiled apologetically. Derek, stop. But there was no force behind it. Derek wasn't stopping. I mean, seriously, in this economy, making little wooden boxes? He gestured at the jewelry box, still sitting on the coffee table. That's not a career. That's a hobby. Marcus said nothing. His face was carefully blank. Derek. I kept my voice level. Marcus runs a successful business. Oh, honey, my mother sighed. We've seen your apartment. If that's success. Let's be real here. Derek drained his whiskey. My watch cost more than his truck. He held up his wrist. A Rolex glinted in the lamplight. The room fell silent. Everyone's eyes moved to Marcus. He stood up slowly, no anger on his face, just a tired kind of resignation I'd seen too many times. I think I'll get some air, he said. He walked past me, past my parents, past Derek's smirk. At the hallway, he paused, just for a second. I saw his shoulders drop, a small collapse, barely visible. In 5 years, I'd never seen Marcus look defeated. Until now. Something broke inside me, some last thread of patience, of keeping the peace, of maybe next time will be different. I looked at Derek, at my father, still chuckling, at my mother, who wouldn't meet my eyes, and I thought, no more, not tonight, not ever again. I didn't know I was about to tear my family apart. I only knew I was done watching them tear down my husband. Enough! I stood up. My voice cut through the room like glass breaking. My father frowned. Sienna, sit down. You're making a scene. I'm making a scene? I heard myself say. You just humiliated my husband in front of everyone, and you're laughing about it. Oh, for God's sake. My mother pressed her fingers to her temples. We're just worried about you. Derek and Vivian have a beautiful life. We want that for you too. Derek set down his glass. His eyes had a strange gleam, the look of a man who'd won every argument he'd ever started. Let's be honest here. He spread his hands wide. Your husband is a glorified handyman. There, I said what everyone's been thinking. Derek, Vivian whispered, maybe we should stay out of it. He didn't even look at her. Vivian flinched, a full-body flinch, like she'd been struck. Rachel, standing near the bookshelf, went rigid. She saw it too. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I ignored it. Then it buzzed again. I pulled it out. Same unknown number as before. I'm sorry. That was meant for someone else. Please delete it. Please. Derek was watching me. His face had changed, the smugness replaced by something sharper, warier. He'd realized his mistake, but it was too late, because now I understood. That first text, I need to tell someone, wasn't a cry for help. It was Derek trying to cover his tracks, trying to confess something to someone who wasn't me. The wine was making him sloppy. The secrets were piling up, and whatever he was hiding, it was big enough to text a stranger about in desperation. I looked at my sister, at her hollow eyes, at the bruise she kept covered. I looked at Derek, sweating now despite the cold. Tonight, something was going to break. I went outside to find Marcus. He was standing at the edge of the patio, breath fogging in the December air. "Hey," I touched his shoulder. "I'm sorry, I should have—" "Don't." He shook his head. "Don't apologize for them." Before I could respond, footsteps crunched on the frozen grass behind us. "Sienna." Derek's voice was different now, softer, almost slurred. "Can I talk to you? Alone?" Marcus tensed beside me. "It's fine," I said. "Go inside. Get warm. I'll be right there." He hesitated, then nodded. As he passed Derek, the two men's eyes met. Something unspoken passed between them. Hostility, maybe, or warning. Then Marcus was gone, and I was alone with my brother-in-law in the shadows. Derek moved closer. I could smell the whiskey on his breath. "You think you have it bad?" His laugh was hollow. "You think your parents are hard on you?" "What do you want, Derek?" "Your sister." He swayed slightly. "Your perfect, beautiful sister. You know what she does every night?" I stayed silent. "She checks my phone, goes through my emails, times how long I'm in the bathroom." He jabbed a finger at his chest. "I'm the prisoner. Not her. Me." "Derek, what exactly are you saying?" "Everyone thinks I'm the bad guy." His voice cracked. "But you don't know. You have no idea what it's like living with her." I studied his face. The red-rimmed eyes. The performative pain. Something about his words felt rehearsed, like lines he'd practiced. I'd heard this speech before. Not from victims, from abusers. "You're a therapist, right?" He stepped closer. "Then you know. Some victims aren't who you think." His hand gripped my arm. Too tight. And I realized Derek wasn't confessing. He was manipulating. Just like he manipulated everyone else, including my sister. I didn't pull away. Years of training had taught me to keep my face neutral, my body still. Let them talk. Let them reveal themselves. "She's the controlling one," Derek continued, his grip loosening. "She decides where we eat, who we see, what I wear to work." "That must be difficult," I said carefully. "You have no idea." He ran a hand through his hair. "That report Rachel mentioned? Vivian filed it against me. But it was all lies. She hit herself, bruised herself. I swear to God." The words hung in the cold air between us. I'd seen this pattern dozens of times in my work. Darvo, deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. Textbook narcissistic manipulation. "Derek," I kept my voice calm. "Who controls the bank accounts?" He blinked. "What?" "You said Vivian controls everything. The money, the schedule. But whose name is on the bank accounts?" His mouth opened, closed, opened again. "That's different. I manage our finances because I'm better with—" "Does Vivian have her own credit card?" "She doesn't need—" "Can she spend money without telling you first?" Silence. "I'm a trauma specialist, Derek." I stepped back, out of his reach. "I've heard this speech 100 times, from the abuser, never from the victim." His face changed. The wounded husband mask crumbled. Underneath was something harder, colder. "You don't know what you're talking about." "I know exactly what I'm talking about. Vivian was an architect, a good one. Why did she quit?" "Nothing." "Did you tell her to quit? Or did you make it impossible for her to keep working?" "She chose to stay home." Derek's voice rose sharply. "I gave her everything." The shout echoed across the yard, loud enough to carry through the windows, loud enough for everyone inside to hear. The back door swung open. Vivian stood in the doorway, backlit by the warm glow of the living room. Her face was pale as marble. "Viv." Derek's voice shifted instantly, softening. "Baby, we were just talking." She didn't look at him. Her eyes were fixed on me. "I heard," she said quietly. "I heard everything." Behind her I could see movement. My mother's worried face. My father standing, Rachel gripping the doorframe. "Vivian, let's go inside." Derek moved toward her. "You're misunderstanding." "Don't." The word was small but sharp. Vivian took a step back. "Don't touch me." For a moment, Derek's mask slipped entirely. I saw rage flash across his features, white-hot and terrifying. Then it was gone, replaced by confusion, concern, the performance of a loving husband. "Honey, you're not well. You're tired. Let me—" "She's not tired." I moved to stand beside my sister. "She's finally saying what she's wanted to say for years." My mother pushed through the door. "What on earth is going on? Derek, Vivian, someone explain." "Nothing's going on." Derek smiled, that practiced, charming smile. "Sienna's just having one of her episodes, being dramatic. You know how she—" "8 years." Vivian's voice cut through his like a blade. 8 years, I've pretended." The silence was absolute. Even the Christmas lights seemed to stop twinkling. "Vivian, sweetheart." My mother reached for her. "What are you talking about?" My sister looked at our mother, at our father, at Derek, frozen mid-performance. Then she pulled up her sleeve. The bruise wasn't alone. There were others. Faded yellow, healing green, fresh purple. A timeline of pain written on her skin. My mother's hand flew to her mouth, and I thought, this is it. This is the moment everything changes. She did that to herself. Derek's voice was steady, but sweat beaded on his forehead. "She's mentally unstable. I've been trying to get her help. He checks my phone." Vivian's words tumbled out now, years of silence breaking like a dam. "Every text, every call, every email. If I don't answer within 2 minutes, he calls until I do." "Vivian, stop." Derek stepped forward. "You don't know what you're saying." "He controls all our money. I haven't had cash in 4 years. If I need groceries, he adds it to a list and has them delivered. So I can't go anywhere without him knowing." My mother swayed. Dad caught her arm. "This is insane." Derek's composure was cracking. "Linda, Robert, you know me. I would never—" "I haven't seen Rachel alone in 3 years." Vivian looked at her friend, tears streaming now. "Because he said she was a bad influence. Because she asked too many questions." Rachel stepped forward, her voice shaking. "She called me 6 months ago, 2 in the morning, crying, saying she couldn't leave because he'd take everything, the house, her credit, her reputation." "That's hearsay." Derek whirled on Rachel. "You can't prove—" "I work at the courthouse." Rachel's chin lifted. "A domestic violence report was filed. Vivian withdrew it the next day. Because someone," her eyes locked on Derek, "told her he'd destroy her if she didn't." My father had gone gray. He stared at Derek like he'd never seen him before. "Is this true?" Dad's voice was hoarse. Derek opened his mouth, closed it. For once, the silver-tongued lawyer had nothing to say. In the silence, a phone buzzed. Derek's pocket. Then again, and again. We all heard it. The vibration of incoming messages, rapid fire, urgent. Someone wanted Derek's attention very badly. "Answer it." My mother's voice was barely a whisper. "Answer your phone, Derek." His hand went to his pocket, hesitated. The phone kept buzzing, message after message. "Who is it?" Dad stepped forward. The respect he'd always shown Derek was gone, replaced by something harder. "Who's texting you at 11 o'clock on Christmas Eve?" Derek's smile flickered. Work? You know how it is. On Christmas Eve? Rachel crossed her arms. Pull it out. Show us. For a moment, I thought he'd refuse. Then, perhaps calculating that refusal would look worse, he pulled out the phone. The screen lit up. Name after name scrolled past notifications. We need to talk. Now. Derek, I can't keep waiting. You said you'd tell her tonight. The name at the top wasn't a colleague. It was a woman's name, someone called Ashley, and the preview of her latest message read, "The baby's due in April, you promised." My mother made a sound, something between a gasp and a moan. Vivian laughed. A broken, brittle sound. A baby, of course. Of course there's a baby. This isn't what it looks like. Derek was backing up now, phone clutched to his chest. I was going to tell you. I was going to... A baby. Vivian's laughter turned to something harder. 8 years of controlling everything I do, everything I wear, everyone I see, and you were building another life the whole time. Vivian, please. My wife isn't mentally unstable. The words came from behind me, Marcus's voice, calm and certain. She's a licensed therapist specializing in trauma. And what you just described? What you tried to pull? It's called Darvo. She wrote a paper on it. Derek's eyes darted between us. Trapped. Finally trapped. And for the first time, I watched my parents see him clearly. If you're watching this and it hits close to home, first, I'm sending you all my strength. Second, I need to know, team finally speak up, or team get out of there immediately. Drop your answer in the comments, and if you haven't already, please hit that like button. It genuinely helps more people find stories like this one. Now, let's see how this Christmas dinner ends, because trust me, the fallout was just beginning. Derek grabbed his coat from the hallway. I don't have to listen to this. Vivian, we're leaving. No. The word stopped him cold. Vivian stood straighter than I'd seen her in years. Her voice shook, but it held. We're not leaving, you are. Vivian, be reasonable. I've been reasonable for 8 years. She stepped toward him. I've smiled at your partners, hosted your dinners, let you decide what I wore, what I ate, who I saw. I was reasonable when you made me quit my job, reasonable when you put me on an allowance like a child. Derek glanced at my parents, searching for allies. He found none. This is your choice, I said to Vivian. Not loud, not dramatic, just clear. Whatever you want to do, we'll support you. Vivian looked at Rachel, at Marcus, at me, then at our parents, who stood frozen by the fireplace. I want out, she said. I've wanted out for 3 years. I just didn't think anyone would believe me. I believe you. My mother's voice cracked. She crossed the room and pulled Vivian into her arms. I believe you, baby. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Rachel pulled out her phone. I know a family lawyer, one of the best. She owes me a favor. This is ridiculous. Derek was edging toward the door. You'll regret this, all of you. Do you have any idea what I can... Derek. My father stepped into his path. The man who'd clapped him on the back an hour ago now blocked his exit. Get out of my house, now, before I call the police. Derek's face contorted with rage, but he saw the room. He saw he'd lost. He grabbed his coat and slammed the door behind him. The silence that followed felt like breathing again. After Derek left, no one moved for a long moment. Then Vivian collapsed onto the sofa, shaking with sobs. Rachel sat beside her, rubbing her back, murmuring things I couldn't hear. I turned to my parents. My mother looked like she'd aged 10 years. My father stood by the window staring at nothing. I love you both. I kept my voice calm. But tonight needs to be the last time you compare my marriage to anyone else's. Mom looked up. Sienna, we didn't know. You didn't know about Derek. I cut her off gently. But you knew exactly what you were saying about Marcus. For 5 years you knew. Silence. We just wanted... My father's voice trailed off. We wanted you to have security. I have security. I glanced at Marcus, who stood quietly by the door. I have a man who builds things with his hands and has never once made me feel small. That's more than Derek ever gave Vivian. My mother covered her face. Her shoulders trembled. Every comparison, every joke at his expense, every time you called him the carpenter like it was an insult. I felt something release in my chest, years of swallowed words finally finding air. That ends tonight, or we stop coming. My father nodded slowly. For once, he didn't argue. Marcus walked over. His hand found mine. Vivian, he said softly, you're welcome to stay with us tonight, as long as you need. She looked up at him, this man my family had mocked for half a decade, the man offering her shelter when everything had shattered. Thank you, she whispered. As we gathered our coats, my mother caught my arm. Her eyes were red, her face raw. I'm sorry, she said. I'm so sorry. It was the first time in 32 years I'd heard her say those words. Our apartment was small. 2 bedrooms, a galley kitchen, furniture Marcus had built himself. Vivian stood in the doorway, looking around like she'd landed on another planet. Mom called this small, she said quietly. She doesn't know what she's talking about. I guided her to the sofa. Marcus brought blankets, then disappeared into the kitchen. The sound of the kettle filled the silence. Vivian pulled her knees to her chest. She looked young, fragile, nothing like the polished woman who'd sat in our parents' living room hours ago. 8 years, she said. I wasted 8 years. I sat beside her. You survived 8 years. That's different. I forgot what it felt like. She looked around at our living room, at the hand-carved bookshelves, the warm light. To feel safe in a room. Marcus returned with 3 cups of tea. He handed one to Vivian without fanfare, then settled into the armchair across from us. The guest room is ready, he said. Fresh sheets, extra blankets, stay as long as you need. Vivian stared at him. At this man our family had dismissed. The carpenter, the handyman, the one who wasn't good enough. Why are you being so kind to me? Her voice cracked. After everything my husband said about you. You're not your husband, Marcus shrugged. And you're Sienna's sister. That's enough. Vivian started crying again, not the desperate sobs from before, something quieter, cleaner. I'm so tired, she whispered. I don't remember not being tired. I pulled her close. She felt like bones in tension. But she was here. She was free. Sleep, I told her. Tomorrow we figure out the rest. Tonight, you just sleep. For the first time in 8 years, my sister fell asleep without checking if the doors were locked from the inside. 1 week after Christmas, I sat at my desk at Massachusetts General, staring at an email from Dr. Webb. Confirmation. My presentation at the March conference was locked in. Topic: Recognizing coercive control in family systems. I closed the laptop and picked up my phone. 3 unread messages. The first was from Rachel. Vivian met with the lawyer today. Things are moving forward. The second was from Vivian herself. Sign the papers. It's really happening. The third was from my mother. Can we talk? Not to argue, just talk. I agreed to meet her. Not at the house. At a coffee shop downtown. Neutral ground. New rules. She was already there when I arrived, small in a corner booth, hands wrapped around a cup she wasn't drinking. Thank you for coming, she said. I sat across from her, waited. I've been thinking about what you said. She stared at the table. About Marcus. About security. A long pause. Your father used to be a construction worker, before accounting, before me. I blinked. Dad never talked about his past. I pushed so hard because I was scared. She finally looked up. Scared you'd struggle like we did. Like I did, watching him come home exhausted every night. I understand, I said carefully. But fear doesn't excuse hurting us. I know. She reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. I found this, years ago. In your car, actually, after one of your visits. I opened it. Inside was Marcus's letter. The one he'd written and never sent. 3 pages of careful handwriting explaining his work, his values, his love for me. You read this? I whispered. I read it. Tears slipped down her cheeks. I knew years ago who he really was. I was just too proud to admit I was wrong. February came cold and gray, but things were thawing everywhere that mattered. The rumors about Derek spread through Boston's legal circles like wildfire. Not because of us, we'd stayed silent. But Ashley, his mistress, hadn't. She was a paralegal at his firm, 26 years old, 4 months pregnant with his child. And when Derek tried to ghost her after Christmas, she went straight to HR. The investigation uncovered more. Complaints from female colleagues, inappropriate comments, a pattern of behavior that didn't look good for a partner-track attorney. Last I heard, Derek was on administrative leave. The partnership was off the table. His reputation, once bulletproof, had shattered. Vivian filed for divorce in January. The lawyer Rachel found was excellent, thorough, aggressive, compassionate. Derek tried to fight it, but with Rachel's testimony and the documented history, he didn't have much leverage. She moved out of our apartment in mid-February into her own place, smaller than the Brookline mansion, infinitely more hers. She'd started seeing a therapist, a colleague of mine, someone good, and she'd begun sketching again, architecture, buildings that existed only in her imagination for now. But she was creating again. That mattered. As for Marcus, the project he'd been working on, the one my mother called Wood Things, turned out to be a commission for a boutique hotel chain. Custom furniture for 12 properties. The kind of contract that changed everything. I didn't tell my parents about the money. That wasn't the point. But when the first piece was featured in a design magazine, Dad saw it. He called Marcus directly for the first time in 5 years. I saw the article, he said. That credenza. It's really something. Marcus smiled when he told me about it later. Not triumphant, just settled. He's trying, Marcus said. That's enough for now. March, the conference. I stood at the podium, looking out at a sea of faces. Mental health professionals, researchers, advocates, people who spent their careers helping others recognize the invisible cages of coercive control. Today, I was one of them. Today, I wasn't the sister who stayed silent. Coercive control often hides in plain sight, I said, my voice steady. We see the perfect house, the successful spouse, the curated life. We don't see the person inside that life slowly disappearing. In the 3rd row, I spotted Marcus. Beside him sat Vivian, thinner but brighter-eyed than she'd been in years. And next to them, unexpected, impossible, sat my parents. I hadn't known they were coming. Mom had mentioned wanting to support me, but I'd assumed it was just words. Yet there they were, watching, listening. I continued the presentation. 30 minutes of data and case studies and recommendations. Professional, clinical, true. When I finished, the applause was warm. Dr. Webb found me afterward, beaming. Outstanding work, Sienna, truly. But it was my father's face I watched. He approached slowly, hands in his pockets. That furniture set you mentioned, he said to Marcus. The one in the hotel lobby. I saw the photos. A pause. It's really something. Marcus nodded. Thank you, sir. I was wrong about you. Dad's voice was rough. I was wrong about a lot of things. Then he did something I'd never seen. He extended his hand to Marcus. Not the dismissive brush of fingers from years past, but a real handshake. Firm, respectful. Marcus took it. I spent years waiting for my parents to see his worth. Turns out I needed to see my own worth first, to demand it, to make space for it. Only then could anything change. Now, today. I'm sitting in our living room, still small, still perfect. Sunlight streams through the window onto the rocking chair in the corner. The one Marcus made 5 years ago. The one my mother used every day and never acknowledged. She sent it back last month. A note tucked inside. This belongs with you. It always did. Marcus is in his workshop finishing a commission. I can hear the soft rhythm of sanding through the walls. It sounds like home. Vivian stopped by yesterday. She's doing better. Not healed, but healing. She got a job at an architecture firm downtown. Small projects, but hers. She's building things again. Our family isn't fixed. There are still awkward dinners. Still moments when Mom starts to compare, then catches herself. Still silences where old words used to be. But there are boundaries now. Clear ones. When the comparisons start, I change the subject. Or I leave. Both are options I didn't know I had. Last week, Dad asked Marcus for advice on a woodworking project. A birdhouse of all things. They spent an hour on the phone talking about joint types and wood grain. It's not much. It's everything. My parents spent years measuring success in square footage and salary. They missed the only metric that matters. Does this person make you feel safe enough to be yourself? Marcus makes me feel safe. He makes me feel seen. That's worth more than any Rolex, more than any Brookline mansion. You don't owe anyone an explanation for choosing happiness over their expectations. Not even family. Especially not family that mistakes control for love. Set the boundary, hold the line, let them adjust or let them go. Either way, you'll finally be free. If you made it to the end, first of all, thank you. Truly. I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to set a boundary with your family? What happened? Drop your story in the comments. Your experience might help someone else who's struggling right now. And if this video meant something to you, please share it with someone who might need it. There's another story in the description you might want to check out. Stay safe out there. See you in the next one.